ஆழ்வார் திருடிகளே சரணம், எம்பெருமானார் திருடிகளே சரணம், piLLai திருடிகளே சரணம், viLAnjOlaip பிள்ளை திருடிகளே சரணம், ஜீயர் திருடிகளே சரணம், ஜீயர் திருடிகளே சரணம், piLLai ஜீயர் திருடிகளே சரணம். ஸ்ரீசைலேஷ தயாபாத்திரம் தீபக்தியாதிகுணார்ணவம் யதீந்திர பிரவணம் வந்தே நம்ம ஜாமாதரம் முனி ரம்ய ஜாமாத்ரி யோகீந்திர பாதரேகாமயம் சதா ததாயத்தாத்மசத்தாதிம் ராமானுஜமுனிம் பஜே. லக்ஷ்மீநாத சமாரம்பாம் நாதே ஆமனமத்யமாம் அஸ்மத் ஆச்சாரிய பரியந்தாம் வந்தே குரு பரம்பராம். यो नित्यमच्युत पदाम्बुज युग्मरुक्म व्यामोहत स्थदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये. मातापिता योतयस्तनया भूतिः सर्वं यदेव नियमेन मदन्मयानाम् आद्यस्य न कुलपतेर्कुलाभिरामं श्रीमत्तदङ्घ्रियुगलं प्रणमामि मूर्ध्ना. भूतं सरश्च महताह्वये भट्टनाथ श्रीभक्तिसार कुलशेखर योगिवाहान् प्रकाल यतीन्द्रमिश्रान् जीवत्पराङ्कुशं निं प्रणतो வாழி நலந்திகழு நாரண தாதனருள் வாழி அவன் அமுத வாய்மொழிகள் வாழிய ஏறு திருவுடையான் எந்தை உலகாரியன் சொல் தேறு திருவுடையான் சீர். viLAnjOlaip பிள்ளை is a very dear disciple of lOkAchArya. He has composed a wonderful Tamil prabandham named saptha kAdhai. There are 7 pasurams in this prabandham, very easy to understand pasurams, but these pasurams are filled with so much valuable instructions from SrIvachana bhUshaNam Divya Shastram. lOkAchArya has blessed us with the most wonderful Rahasya Grantham, SrIvachana bhUshaNam, and viLAnjOlaip Pillai, being lOkAchArya's disciple, who has heard all those meanings directly from lOkAchArya, has composed the essence of lOkAchArya's teachings in SrIvachana bhUshaNam in these 7 beautiful pasurams. We have started enjoying this wonderful prabandham last week, and now we are continuing on with the avathArikA. That is, avathArikA means the preface or the introduction section for this wonderful prabandham given by piLLai Jiyar. piLLai Jiyar is a wonderful SrIvaishnava Acharya who lived subsequent to Manawal Mamnigal's time, a couple of generations after Manawal Mamnigal. He had great knowledge and devotion, and he has written beautiful commentaries for many of the prabandhams which are subsequent to lOkAchArya and other acharyas. For example, he has written commentary for saptha kAdhai, he has written commentary for Upadesha Ratinamalai, he has written commentary for Thiruvaimozhi Nootrandadi, Arti Prabandham. He has also documented the life history of Bhagavad Ramanuja, and same with Manawal Mamnigal. In this manner, he has written many wonderful granthams. We are going to use his commentary to understand the meanings for saptha kAdhai. His commentary is a very elaborate one. Initially, I thought of doing this saptha kAdhai in a very brief manner, but the more I think about it, I think it will be better if we did a somewhat detailed study of this prabandham, because it is the essence of SrIvachana bhUshaNam. So even if some Bhagavatas are eager to know about SrIvachana bhUshaNam, this prabandham will be a very useful tool for them to understand the essence of SrIvachana bhUshaNam. Because SrIvachana bhUshaNam is a very lengthy text with an elaborate commentary. We've already done English lectures and detailed English translation. We released the SrIvachana bhUshaNam Manavada Mamnigal's commentary translated into English in 2 parts. So those are already available. Still, if any Bhagavata is not having enough time to go through the whole thing, if they go through saptha kAdhai in some detail, at least to some extent, if we go into the detail of the subject matter, then the essence of SrIvachana bhUshaNam will be understood by this series of lectures. So I will try to explain not word by word of the commentary, but at least the important aspects in the commentary. But the avathArikA, the introduction section, let us go through that almost fully so that we have an overall idea about this saptha kAdhai in a very precise manner. Subsequently, for the 7 Pasurams commentary, we will go through in somewhat detailed manner. So let us start with the avathArikA. viLAnjOlaip piLLai, this Narayana Tadhar, he took shelter under piLLai lOkAchArya. Now, piLLai lOkAchArya is the sustainer for Sri Ranganatha Bhagavan himself. While Sri Ranganatha Bhagavan sustains the whole world, he is sustained by piLLai lOkAchArya. How can we say that? That is because Bhagavan himself, as Krishna, spoke in Sri Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, 18th shlokam, Jnani tu atmaiva me matham. So when Bhagavan is explaining about 4 types of people who approach him, Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritino arjuna, arto jignyasur artharthi jnani cha bharata rishabha. He starts with that. He says that 4 types of noble people approach him. That is arto, jignasu, artharthi, jnani. Artha means one who is suffering. So he has lost some wealth and he is in sorrow due to having lost his wealth. So he is coming to Bhagavan to reclaim the lost wealth. That is Artha. Artharthi is the one who seeks new wealth. So both of these types of people are put together known as Artharthi. That is those who seek material wealth, Aishwaryarthi. And then there is Jignasu, one who is inquisitive. He understands that this body and everything made of materialistic matter is of sorrow only. And he is seeking enjoyment in his own self. Such person is known as Jignasu here. He is also known as Kaivalyarthi. And then there is Jnani, one who is very knowledgeable about Bhagavan, considering Bhagavan to be Upayam and considering Bhagavan to be Upayam. Bahunam Janmanam Jnane, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. So Bhagavan uses the term Jnani there. Bahunam Janmanam, after many births, a person becomes knowledgeable, Jnani. Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. This Jnani, Jnanavan, that is one who has the full knowledge, he surrenders unto me. And then Bhagavan says, such Jnani is very rare to find. Samahatma Sudurlabha. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. That Jnani accepts that Vasudeva is everything. What does Vasudeva is everything mean? That means Vasudeva is Upayam, Vasudeva is Upayam. A person who surrenders, he only has two things in his mind: the path to attain Bhagavan and then the goal after attaining Bhagavan. So both of that is Bhagavan only, Vasudeva only. So one who has that understanding is very, very rare to find. Samahatma Sudurlabha says Bhagavan, and when talking about that personality, Bhagavan says Jnanavan. So this Jnani relates to Jnanavan, one who is totally surrendered to Bhagavan. He is known as Bhagavad Kainkaryarti. So three kinds of people who are explained as four kinds by Bhagavan: Aishwaryarti, Kaivalyarti, Bhagavad Kainkaryarti. Here Aishwaryarti, Bhagavan identifies in two ways: Arthaha, one who lost his wealth, and Artharti, one who is seeking new wealth. And after that, in the next slokam, Bhagavan says, all of these personalities, they are all very noble. But among them, Jnani tu Atmaiva me matam. That Jnani is my soul. Bhagavan is the soul for everything. That is our Vishishtadvaita Siddhantam. Bhagavan is the Atma and all the Chit, all the Jivatmas and all the Achit, the whole of matter. Everything is his body. That is Shariratma Bhavam. That is Vishishtadvaita Siddhantam. So the whole Vedantam declares this Siddhantam only, Vishishtadvaita Siddhantam only. When that is the case, Bhagavan says here that my devotee who is a Jnani is my soul. Jnani tu Atmaiva me matam. And he says, this is my opinion. Let Vedanta's opinion be there. This is my opinion. So we have to understand that Bhagavan is talking about someone special, very special. Those devotees, those jnanis are very, very dear to Bhagavan. So such jnani is lOkAchArya. That is why it is said that while Sri Ranganatha sustains the entire creation, lOkAchArya sustains Sri Ranganatha. Without lOkAchArya, Sri Ranganatha cannot be sustained. It can be seen in two different ways. One is literal meaning. When Srirangam was under attack, under siege, at that time it was lOkAchArya who protected Sri Ranganatha. In the front of Moolamurti, he raised the stone wall and then he carried Utsavamurti, Nambirumal, and protected Nambirumal and took care of him until his last breath. So, literally also he has saved. That is first opinion. Second opinion, being a great devotee of Sri Ranganatha, as per the Jnani tu Atmaiva me matam, as per Bhagavan's own words, because lOkAchArya was a great devotee, he was already sustaining Bhagavan. So both can be seen. So viLAnjOlaip piLLai was the dear disciple of lOkAchArya. And lOkAchArya blessed all the Rahasya Granthams, including the SrIvachana bhUshaNam, which were all documented based on the order of Bhagavan himself. We saw in the previous session how Manapakatha Nambi came to Srirangam, how Bhagavan came in the dream of Manapakatha Nambi and asked Manapakatha Nambi to go and inform lOkAchArya that all of these Rahasya Granthams should be documented. So we saw all of that. So lOkAchArya documented all of the Rahasya Granthams. And in these Granthams, he reveals the greatness of the ultimate Pramana, Prameya and Pramatha in the proper manner. So lOkAchArya reveals what is Pramanam, that is Vedam, Shastram, that is Pramanam. That includes Shruti, Smriti, Itihasa, Purana, Sri Pancharatra, Agama, all of these, and Divya Prabandhams, Purvacharyas, Stotrams, commentaries, all of these are put together as Pramanam for us. And then Prameyam is Archavatara Bhagavan, Divideshams, Bhagavatas, these are all Prameya. And then Pramatha, Acharya, who reveals these principles. Such person is known as Pramata. All of these are explained very beautifully by piLLai lOkAchArya in his Rahasya Granthams. By the grace of piLLai lOkAchArya, viLAnjOlaip piLLai learned everything from such piLLai lOkAchArya. Everything means what? What did he learn from piLLai lOkAchArya? It is all listed here in the avathArikA. First, he learned Tiruvaimozhi. Tiruvaimozhi is known as the nectar for Bhagavan's devotees. Tondar Kamudunna Cholmaligal Sonnen. Alvar himself declares, I gave this Tiruvaimozhi so that the Bhagavatas, Bhaktas, they can all drink it as nectar. So first he learns Tiruvaimozhi. Not necessarily in the same sequence, but he learns all of these from piLLai lOkAchArya. That is the intent here. He learns Tiruvaimozhi. And then other Divya Prabandhams of Tirumangai Alvar and other Alvars, they are all known as ancillary and sub-ancillary subjects. Just like Vedam has Angam and Upangam. Vedams are 4 and then Angams are there. Angams means they are ancillary subjects. Shiksha, Vyakaranam, Niruktam, Kalpam, Chandas, Jyotisham. These are all 6 Angams for Vedam. Similarly, Tirumangai Alvar, Parakala Swami has composed 6 beautiful prabandhams. They are all considered as Angams. And then other Alvars, they have all composed many Divya Prabandhams. They are all known as Upangams, sub-ancillary subjects. So these are also taught by piLLai lOkAchArya to viLAnjOlaip piLLai. And then piLLai lOkAchArya teaches the commentaries for all these Divya Prabandhams. By the time of piLLai lOkAchArya, already all the commentaries had come into existence. Periyavachan piLLai had given commentaries for Nalayar Divya Prabandham. Nampiள்ளai had given commentary which was documented by Vadaka Tiruvedi piLLai for Tiruvaimozhi. That was also available. And other Acharyas' commentaries. Nanjiyar had given some commentaries. That is Vedanti Jiyar. And then piLLai lOkAchArya's brother, Adigamana Perumal Nayanar, he had written some commentaries. Vadikesari Adigamana Jiyar, he had written some commentaries. All of those were present during piLLai lOkAchArya's time. So he taught all of those, whatever was available back then, to viLAnjOlaip piLLai. And then finally, all the Rahasya Granthams, these 18 Rahasya Granthams given by piLLai lOkAchArya, Acharya Hridayam given by Adigamana Perumal Nayanar, and their detailed meanings. All of these were taught to viLAnjOlaip piLLai by piLLai lOkAchArya. That was his greatness. So he could learn everything directly from Acharya. There was an incident we saw in Nachiyar Tirumozhi the other day, right? That it is important to learn from an Acharya everything. Though Acharya's grace is very valuable, very potent, that is what is known as Acharya Kataksham, the merciful glance of an Acharya. Though that is important, even more important is learning from the Acharya. Because by systematically learning from an Acharya, a learned person, one will not just get the text, that is whatever sacred text is there, not just that. The Shishya, the disciple, will also get the overall Anubhavam, experience, learnings from others, all of these from that Acharya. Because the Acharya would have learnt it from another Acharya. previous acharyas. So all of those experience will also come along. Whatever points which we may not understand just by reading the grantham, those will be clarified when we listen to an acharya. So even though reading granthams is very important and one should engage in reading granthams, it should be a supplement for listening from an acharya. So one should learn from an acharya, and obviously learning means you have to serve and have acharya bhakti and all of that, which we are going to see. We are only seeing the first part, where how piLLai lOkAchArya taught everything to viLAnjOlaip Pillai. Then we also have to see how viLAnjOlaip Pillai remained towards piLLai lOkAchArya. That we will see. But here, the important point is piLLai lOkAchArya taught everything to viLAnjOlaip Pillai, and that's the importance. Even though Kataksham is good, complete thorough learning from an acharya is most important. We saw in that incident where Petri, a disciple of Nanjiyar, he couldn't listen to Nachiyar Tirumozhi Kalakshepam from Acharya, so he was explaining a particular phrase wrongly because he didn't understand properly that from the Acharya. And then when he asked Nambillai explains that this is how Nanjiyar used to give explanation for that. Because he had heard from Nanjiyar directly, he could explain. Kaliveri Dasa could explain. And then Petri says, oh, this is the value of learning from an acharya directly. So that concept is very, very important, and that is what is demonstrated by viLAnjOlaip Pillai here, by learning everything from acharya. Whatever possible, maximum, we have to learn from the acharya. And then he could absorb all the principles in his heart. Everything, the esoteric meanings, the beautiful phrases, beautiful meanings, beautiful principles, everything was completely absorbed by viLAnjOlaip Pillai. And this viLAnjOlaip Pillai is a very, very dear disciple of piLLai lOkAchArya. A few examples are shown here. Pillai Urangavilli Dasar, Dhanur Dasar, was a very close servitor for Bhagavad Ramanuja, Udayavar. Yer Thirudayan Dasar, he was a very dear disciple for Nambillai, that is Kaliveri Dasar. And then Pillai Vanamamalai Dasar was a very dear disciple of Naduvil Tiruvidi Pillai Bhattar. Naduvil Tiruvidi Pillai Bhattar is Madhyavedi Bhattar. He was one of the descendants of Kuratalwan, Parashara Bhattar, Vedavyasa Bhattar, that clan, and he had great affection and devotion towards Nambillai. So for Naduvil Tiruvidi Pillai Bhattar, Pillai Vanamamalai Dasar was a very dear disciple. Similarly, for piLLai lOkAchArya, viLAnjOlaip Pillai was a very dear disciple. We can observe here that all of these acharyas, that is Bhagavad Ramanuja, Nambillai, Naduvil Tiruvidi Pillai Bhattar, piLLai lOkAchArya, all of those quoted here, they are all Brahmanas. And all of those disciples who are very, very dear, like life for them, for those acharyas, they are all abrahmanas. So we can see how in SrIvachana Sampradayam, the Anyonya Bhavam, cutting across Varnas, was present. It is not that one just see that you are a Brahmana, I am a Brahmana, oh, let's be friends, let's be very close. That is not the case here. It is not just bodily connection. All the Varna is for body only. So the acharyas were seeing beyond the body. What was that personality, the Atma? How devoted that Atma was to Bhagavan and Bhagavatas and Acharya. That is what is the criteria for an Acharya to have a very close disciple. So they did not see the Varna here. They saw only the greatest quality in them. How totally devoted they are, how totally surrendered they are. And because they had such devotion towards the Acharya reciprocated. And they had, those disciples had their everything as their life, as their sustaining factor. So that is how they were all having this Anyonya Bhavam. So viLAnjOlaip Pillai, being a very close disciple of piLLai lOkAchArya, he also remained as the soul of piLLai lOkAchArya, the life of piLLai lOkAchArya. There is prana. And then vision, his eyes, piLLai lOkAchArya's eyes, his shoulders, his ornaments, piLLai lOkAchArya's divine feet, the rekha, the lines on the feet, and then shadow of the divine feet, and then the divine sandals of piLLai lOkAchArya, and finally the mattress for the divine feet. All of these were viLAnjOlaip Pillai. So viLAnjOlaip Pillai had such bhavam that piLLai lOkAchArya considered viLAnjOlaip Pillai as his own soul. He considered, piLLai lOkAchArya considered viLAnjOlaip Pillai as his prana, life, as his eyes, as his shoulders, as the ornament which he is wearing, as his own divine feet. So that was like the relationship between piLLai lOkAchArya and viLAnjOlaip Pillai. They had such closeness. The rekha on the divine feet, under the divine feet, and then the divine sandals, everything was viLAnjOlaip Pillai for piLLai lOkAchArya. And piLLai lOkAchArya, being the Acharya, viLAnjOlaip Pillai had great affiliation, great servitude towards such piLLai lOkAchArya. And that is because of his high birth. In worldly lOkika terms, people consider him to be low birth, having low birth. But in reality, he is the one who is having highest birth, which is being viLAnjOlaip Pillai itself is a great birth. So that was there for viLAnjOlaip Pillai. Even though in the materialistic view, world view, he was considered as having low birth, reality is he is the one who is having high birth because of his such natural servitude, total servitude towards piLLai lOkAchArya. That Acharya Bhakti made him the highest personality, having highest birth. And that birth, being born in that situation, he has no scope for falling down. Because he is totally humble, very, very uniquely humble, very down to earth. That is how he was. That is natural for such birth. When one is in such birth, one will naturally have such humility, such gentle nature. So there is no scope for falling down for such a personality. And viLAnjOlaip Pillai was a Sarvajna. That is how he is glorified. Sarvajna means omniscient, one who knows everything. That is how he is glorified. To even have Thiruvaimozhi Pillai, who has seen the end of all Shastrams, he himself is a Sarvajna. And he was very revered. We are talking about Thiruvaimozhi Pillai, Sri Shailesha, who is the disciple of piLLai lOkAchArya. But piLLai lOkAchArya had appointed viLAnjOlaip Pillai, Kurakulottama Tiruppotkuzhi Jiyar, Tirukannangudi Pillai, all of these personalities to reform Thiruvaimozhi Pillai, to make him the best Acharya. So such Thiruvaimozhi Pillai, who is the one who has seen the end of all Shastrams, he knows everything. He is Sarvajna. He is omniscient himself. And he is said to be Tidatra Jnana Thiruvaimozhi Pillai, one who has no faults, no shortcomings. Even such Thiruvaimozhi Pillai who has seen the end of Shastram, he came and worshipped viLAnjOlaip Pillai, served viLAnjOlaip Pillai, and learned the ultimate meanings of our Sampradaya. It is also said that, again to prove how our Acharyas, Purvacharyas were dealing with great personalities, irrespective of their Varnam. And a particular sutram is quoted, a section of a sutram is quoted from Acharya Hridayam. Yaga, Anuyaga, Uttaravidigalil, Kaya, Anna, Stalashuddhi Panina, Vridhacharam. That is the conduct of our Acharyas, who had great respect for Bhagavatas irrespective of their birth. These are some things which we actually have to contemplate nowadays. How much we are following these principles as per the divine heart, as per the divine wishes of our Purvacharyas. I think we are lacking in a lot of aspects in these. This Acharya Hridaya Sutram, 85th Sutram, is a very famous Sutram. Mlechanam Bhaktananal. Mlecha means one who is having no connection with Vaidika tradition, no discipline as shown in Vedas. Such persons are known as Mlecha. They are outside four Varnas. But even if such person becomes a devotee of Bhagavan Vishnu, then that person has to be glorified. That person has to be accepted as one among us. We should not be discriminating. We should not be pushing them aside. Such person has to be glorified. Such person has to be honored. So these are all shown in this sutram. In the end of this sutram, these incidents are shown how our Purvacharyas dealt with noble devotees who are materialistically they are seen as low birth persons. But in spiritual version, spiritual vision, our Acharyas had the vision to see the greatness in them and honor them in a wonderful manner. Yaga, Anuyaga, Uttara Vidhigalil. Yaga means Thiruvaradhanam. Anuyaga means accepting prasadam. And then Uttara Vidhi means in Srirangam there is Uttara Vidhi, there is a street known as Uttara Vidhi. There an incident happened. So relating to Thiruvaradhanam, one incident has happened. Relating to prasadam, accepting prasadam, one incident has happened. And relating to a house warming ceremony in the Uttaravidhi, an incident happened. There, Kaya Anna Stala Shuddhi Pannina. In the Yaga, Kaya Shuddhi is done. Kaya means body. Body has to be purified. And then in Anuyaga, Anna Shuddhi is required. That is, prasadam should be pure. And then in Uttaravidhi, in the street, for the house, the place should be purified before entering. And those were done by Acharyas. How they did, who did, all of these are explained in this commentary by Manavada Mamnigal. That is, Bhagavad Ramanuja would hold the hands of Dasarathi, Mudaliyandan, while going to take bath. And after, now we know that Mudaliyandan Dasarathi was a Brahmana. And after taking bath, while coming out and then going towards his matam for Thiruvaradhanam, at that time he will hold on to the hands of Pillai Varangavali Dasar, who is not a Brahmana. So we can see that Bhagavad Ramanuja wanted to have Kaya Shuddhi, that is purification of his divine form, by touching Pillai Varangavalidasa, who was a great, great disciple. Unbelievable standards. Pillai Varangavalidas's devotion, bhava, was incomparable. So Bhagavad Ramanuja wanted to touch him to get purity, to become purified every time. He is already pure, but still to show that by being in contact with Pillai Varangavalidasa, he will be pure. Similarly, Anuyaga. Anuyaga means accepting prasadam. Nambillai, that is Kalivedidasa, an Acharya, an important Acharya in our Sampradayam. He would ask Pillai Yeru Tirudaya Dasar. Here a Dasar usually means a Brahmana Sri Vaishnava. He would ask him to touch the prasadam, which was already offered to Bhagavan, still to increase the divinity in the prasadam. He would ask Pillai Yeru Tirudaya Dasar. We must think how advanced that Pillai Yeru Tirudaya Dasar should be if Nambillai considers that he should touch the prasadam before consuming. So he will get Dasar to touch the prasadam and then he will accept that prasadam. So that is how great that Dasar was. And finally, Naduvil Tiruvidi Pillai Bhattar, he built a home. And then people were asking, how are you going to do this purification ceremony? Punyavachanam, how are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? That was asked. At that time, Naduvil Tiruvidi Pillai Bhattar said, no need for any of that. We will ask Pillai Vanamamalai Dasar to come and walk everywhere in the home. Then the home will be purified. That's all it takes to purify a place. Letting a Bhagavata walk, which is with his divine feet, that will purify the place. No need for any other purification, said Naduvil Tiruvidi Pillai Bhattar. So we can understand what kind of mindset, what kind of advanced Atma-based, devotion-based thinking the Purvacharyas had. So such was the situation in the case of lOkAchArya and viLAnjOlaip Pillai. viLAnjOlaip Pillai is so advanced that lOkAchArya considered him to be a very, very great, dear disciple for him. So such was viLAnjOlaip Pillai's greatness. Now lOkAchArya mercifully ordered viLAnjOlaip Pillai to live in Thiruvananthapuram. Thiruvananthapuram is the Dividesham where Bhagavan is present as Ananta Shayanam. It is Kerala Dividesham, one of the Kerala Divideshams. So there Bhagavan is in reclining posture, giving darshan in 3 different entrances. In front of Ananta Shayana Bhagavan, who is in reclining posture, there will be 3 openings. The opening near the divine feet is for Bhagavatas, like us, those who are mumukshus, those who are seeking eternal kainkariam to Bhagavan. The middle portion, middle opening is for Devatas, Brahma, Rudra and all of them. Because Brahma came from the divine navel of Bhagavan, they are attached to that region. And then the head portion, that is for Nitya Suris, Ananta, Garuda, Vishwaksena. So Bhagavan manifests equality there. He is being equal towards all his devotees and manifesting himself in 3 different entrances for his Sannidhi. So, because viLAnjOlaip Pillai was from that region, lOkAchArya told, you go and stay in Thiruvananthapuram and live your remaining life there. So, based on that orders, viLAnjOlaip Pillai went to Thiruvananthapuram. He stayed in the outside orchards and the gardens, as we saw last week in that section where we discussed viLAnjOlaip Pillai's life history. That time we saw that he would remain in the orchards, constantly meditating upon not Anantashayana Bhagavan, but piLLai lOkAchArya. So he will just go into trance and meditate upon piLLai lOkAchArya's divine form for 1 week, 10 days, like that, without any break, continuously. And he would also be doing, as explained, some pramanams. Guru Padambujam Dhyayet. One should always meditate upon the divine feet of the Acharya. Vigraha Alokana Paraha. One should always be seeing the form of the Guru. Once a person closes his eyes, he should see the form of his Guru. That is what we are supposed to be doing. That is, the ones who are having Acharya Bhakti, one who wants to go beyond Bhagavad Bhakti and be situated in Acharya Bhakti, he must be always meditating upon the lotus feet of the Guru. He must always be desiring to see the divine form of the Guru. There is also a shlokam quoted here. Shri Lokarya Mukara Vindam Akila Shrutyartha Kosham Shatam Tam Goshtincha Tadeka Leenam Leena Manasasam Chintayantam Sadha. So all the meanings of Vedam are present in the words of piLLai lOkAchArya, in the mouth of piLLai lOkAchArya himself. So I am always thinking about him and his Goshti in my mind. This is the shlokam which explains beautifully how we should be situated in thinking about piLLai lOkAchArya, our Acharyas, like this. So like that, viLAnjOlaip Pillai was meditating upon the divine form of piLLai lOkAchArya, which has divine reddish lotus feet, which is formed by beetles. So here, piLLai lOkAchArya beautifully narrates piLLai lOkAchArya's form. Remember, piLLai lOkAchArya is different from piLLai lOkAchArya. piLLai lOkAchArya is the Acharya who gave Rahasya Granthams for us. He was the disciple of Vadakatirivedi Pillai, who was the disciple of Nambillai. So piLLai lOkAchArya is before Manavada Mamnigal. He gave all the Rahasya Granthams, and Manavada Mamnigal gave commentaries for some of the important Rahasya Granthams. piLLai lOkAchArya is from subsequent times, couple of generations after Manavada Mamnigal's time. So piLLai lOkAchArya is SrIvachana bhUshaNam is the source for saptha kAdhai, and piLLai lOkAchArya's commentary is there for saptha kAdhai. So here he is narrating piLLai lOkAchArya's beautiful form. We have to think about Acharya's form in our mind. So piLLai lOkAchArya is having reddish divine lotus feet. It's very red, and it's lotus feet, which is swarmed by beetles. Here beetles means his devotees, his disciples. They are all always holding on to his divine feet and worshipping the divine feet. And he has waist which is decorated with the best silk garment. piLLai lOkAchArya is wearing beautiful garment, decorating his waist. And he is wearing beautiful sacred thread, Yajñopavitam. He is having Tulasi Mala, Tamaramani Mala. Any Bhagavan's devotee must be wearing Tulasi Mala and Tamaramani Mala. Ekanta Lagna Tulasi Nalinaksha Mala. So it is said, important identity for Vaishnavas is to have Tulasi Mala and lotus seeds Mala. So he was wearing those. So all of these narration are given by piLLai lOkAchArya on piLLai lOkAchArya, how piLLai lOkAchArya looks. And then he is having divine smile, and his lips are having the words of Purvacharyas always. Always we should be reciting Alvar's Pasurams, Acharya Stotrams, their commentaries. This is what we should be thinking. This is what we should be speaking. Every time we speak only Purvacharya's words, we can observe that if we do that constantly, then our mouth will be purified. Our words will improve. They will be in line with dignity. So that is how piLLai lOkAchArya's divine mouth, lips are. And then the eyes If you look at the eyes, they shower mercy. Just by looking at the eyes, one can say that he is so merciful. He is full of compassion. And then he has got beautiful tuft, the shika, that is also beautifully present. And then he has got crescent-like divine forehead. His forehead is like a crescent, which is this beautiful shape. And then divine eyes, reddish mouth, golden head with rising glow, sacred thread, golden shoulders. His shoulders look very broad and beautiful. Auspicious divine chest. His chest look very auspicious. The necklaces, that is the Tulasi Mala, Tamarimani Mala, they are all being worn. Waist garment, his lotus feet, how he is sitting on Padmasanam. All of these, and then the beauty of wearing 12 Tirunamams, Tirumans. We wear 12 Tirumans, forehead, then stomach, chest, neck, similarly right side, similarly left side, and then lower back and upper back. So 12 Tirunamams, 12 Tirumans. And then he is having beautiful Jnana Mudra like this, giving Upadesham. All of these make up the divine form of piLLai lOkAchArya. And viLAnjOlaip piLLai is meditating upon this divine form from the lotus feet to head, and then from head to lotus feet. In this manner, viLAnjOlaip piLLai is constantly enjoying the beautiful divine form of piLLai lOkAchArya. Here itself, he is showing what is the essence of SrIvachana bhUshaNam. Essence of SrIvachana bhUshaNam is to focus on Acharya's divine form. How can the disciple, Shishya, can focus on the Acharya's divine form? How can he take care of the divine form? How can he take care of all the material needs of the Acharya? This is the ultimate thought process of a disciple and action of a disciple. So that is what is being demonstrated by viLAnjOlaip piLLai. And he is meditating upon the Goshti of piLLai lOkAchArya. piLLai lOkAchArya had many wonderful disciples. Kurakulottama Dasa, Tirupputkudi Jiyar, Kannangudi piLLai, Thiruvaimozhi piLLai, viLAnjOlaip piLLai, Kurakulottama Dasa, many of them. So that Goshti looks like another Goshti. It's always comparison, right? Nampiள்ளai, that is lOkAchArya, his Goshti. Nampiள்ளai's Goshti was very famous. He also had many wonderful disciples. Periyavachan piLLai, Vadakku Tiruvidi piLLai, Pinbadagaram Perumal Jiyar, Naduvil Tiruvidi piLLai, Bhattar, Kandade Thodappar, many, Ivunni Madhava Perumal, many wonderful disciples were there in his Goshti. And his Goshti is glorified. Vartoncha Vrityapi Yadiya Goshtyam Goshtyantaranam Prathama Bhavanti. Very beautiful statement about the greatness of Nampiள்ளai's Goshti. Nampiள்ளai's Goshti is such that one can attend that Goshti, can pick up a few words, and he can go and explain based on his understanding from that Goshti, from the divine words of Nampiள்ளai, and he can go to another Goshti and he will become the leader there, just by using these words from the Nampiள்ளai's Goshti. That's how great Nampiள்ளai's words were. His divine words were such that if few words are picked up from his explanation, and if a person goes and talks to some others with that, he will be a leader. That is how great Nampiள்ளai's words are, that it can make anyone leader by just following them. So that is the greatness of viLAnjOlaip piLLai, who was always meditating upon the piLLai lOkAchArya's divine Goshti and piLLai lOkAchArya's divine form. And similar to how in Sri Ramayanam Uttarakandam, Hanuman said, Bhavo Nanyatra Gacchati, I will not want to go anywhere. My thoughts will not be fitting with any other form than Sri Rama, this form of Sri Rama. So he said he rejected even ascending to Vaikuntham at that time, because Sri Rama was taking everyone to Vaikuntham. At that time, Hanuman said, no, I don't want to come to Vaikuntham, because if I come there, I may lose this Sri Rama Anubhavam. So he said that. Similarly, Here, pILLai divine form was the only focus for viLAnjOlaip, and viLAnjOlaip was thinking that I will not look at anything else. And he was always remaining in trance, total meditation. And as he meditates for several days together, anthill will form. Many insects will come and bite him, and he will not be disturbed by any of that. Naivadam Shan, Namashakan. This was from Sri Ramayana. When Bhagavan was separated from Sita Pirati, at that time Bhagavan Sri Rama became very numb. He would just remain for few days together without taking any food, without eating anything, without being disturbed by insects biting him, all of that. So similarly here, viLAnjOlaip Pillai, on thinking about Pillai lOkAchArya, he would not take anything. He would not be disturbed by anything. He would not eat anything, he will not drink anything, he will not be disturbed by anything. He will be totally in meditation only. Even spiders will form cobwebs on him, but even that will not disturb him. He will just remain like that. So in this manner, the viLAnjOlaip Pillai had such wonderful bhavam towards Pillai lOkAchArya. It is said in his Taniyan, Yeru Thirudayan Yende Ulagariyan Sol Teru Thirudayan Seer, one who is able to always understand the divine words of Pillai lOkAchArya. Such was his great wealth. The great wealth of viLAnjOlaip Pillai is that he is blessed to understand everything given by Pillai lOkAchArya. And those everything includes SrIvachana, bhUshaNam and all the other granthams. And he was living as if he was living in Thiruvananthapuram as if he is living in Paramapadam. That was viLAnjOlaip Pillai's engagement. So we've seen the introduction section to some extent. We've only covered about 60% of it. In the next session, we'll continue with the introduction section, which is very important for us to understand. So I'm going into the full commentary there. So we'll continue on into the second part of the introduction section in the next session. Alvar Thirudigale Sharanam, Emperamanar Thirudigale Sharanam, Pillai lOkAchArya Thirudigale Sharanam, viLAnjOlaip Pillai Thirudigale Sharanam, GR Thirudigale Sharanam, GR Thirudigale Sharanam, Pillai Lokam GR Thirudigale Sharanam. பல்லாண்டு பல்லாண்டு பல்லாயிரத்தாண்டு பல கோடி நூறாயிரம் பல்லாண்டு தின்றோல் மணிவண்ணாம் சேவடி செய்வதற்கா படியோம் ஓடும் நோடும் திருவின் ஆயிரம் பல்லாண்டு வடிவாயினின் வளமார்பினில் வாழ்கின் நமங்கையும் பல்லாண்டு வடிவார் சோதி வளத்துறையும் சுடர் ஆழியும் பல்லாண்டு படகோர் புக்கும் வழங்கும் அப்பாஞ்ச சன்னியமும் பல்லாண்டே. We'll see you in the next session.